Today we're diving into a story that starts with something we can all relate to. Teenagers wanting to be cool, become school legends. But it takes a really dark turn and becomes a terrifying lesson about why some places, well, they're better left alone.
Just think about it for a sec. What do you remember from your school trips? It's usually the freedom, right? The late-night talks, the inside jokes, all the little adventures you had with your friends. It's supposed to be the best time of the year, something you look back on and smile about.
Yeah, what happens then? Because for this one group of students, the memories they were about to make weren't going to be about fun and games. They were going to be about a pitch-black forest, a spooky lake, and a horror that was waiting for them in the shadows.
All right, so here's how it all starts. Picture this, a school bus full of kids on its way to Shimla. It breaks down, it's late, it's dark, and they're stranded. The teachers have to make a call, and the only choice is this remote hotel, totally surrounded by woods and mountains.
So, three best friends, Ayush, Aman, and Rohan, they all get a room together, and from their window, they can just barely see the shimmer of water through the trees. A lake. And seeing that lake, well, it sparks an idea that's going to change everything.
And here it is. This is their motivation. It's not just about adventure, it's about reputation. It's classic high school stuff. They wanted to be legends, just like these other kids from the year before. The plan seemed so simple, right? Sneak out, get a few cool photos by the lake, and sneak back in as heroes. I mean, what could possibly go wrong?
So they wait. They wait until the hotel guard is asleep, and then the three of them slip out into the night. That initial excitement, that thrill of breaking the rules, it started to wear off pretty fast as soon as they stepped into those woods.
This slide just says it all, doesn't it? The difference between what they thought would happen and what actually happened. That leak looked so close, but the path just went on and on. The fun adventure they planned, it turned into just biting cold in this creeping fear. And the worst part? When they pulled out their phones, maybe for a map or just for a light, zero signal. Nothing. They were completely, totally on their own.
And that's the moment the panic really kicks in. They scrap the whole plan, they just want to go back. They're using the last little bit of their phone's battery to light the way. Ayush and Aman are walking just a tiny bit ahead, and when they turn around to check on their friend, the path behind them is just empty.
Okay, this is where the story shifts. It goes from kids lost in the woods to something else. Their friend isn't just lost, something has found him.
Seriously, where is he? He was right there just a second ago, and now, poof, gone. They're yelling his name, and all they get back is silence. And then, they hear a new sound. It's this frantic, rhythmic, digging sound. They follow that sound, and they look through some bushes, and what they see is just unbelievable. It's Rohan. He's on his knees, just digging a hole in the ground like a wild animal with his bare hands. They call his name, and he slowly turns to look at them.
The second they see his face, they know. That's not their friend anymore. His eyes are just these solid black pits. It's pure nightmare fuel, The most familiar person in the world suddenly becoming this monster. And before they can even really process what they're seeing, this thing that looks like Rohan lets out this horrible scream, shoves him onto the ground with crazy strength, and then just collapses.
So Ayush is trying to wake up Rohan, but the horror, it's not over. Not by a long shot. Whatever's in these woods, it isn't done with them.
Can you imagine this? Rohan finally comes to, he's totally confused, he's scared, and then he looks past Ayush and just starts screaming in terror. So Ayush turns around, and there's Aman, who's been sitting on the ground this whole time. He lifts his head, and his eyes are the exact same empty black voids.
And before they can do anything, this possessed Ammon just leaps to his feet and sprints full speed deeper into the forest. What else can they do? They're terrified for their friends, so Ayush and Rohan they chase after him. The chase leads them out of the trees into a clearing, and that's where they see it, this creepy, run-down, ancient house just standing there in the dark.
They kind of hesitate, but they go inside this ruin, and what they see just breaks your brain. A man is floating. He's just hanging there in the middle of the air, unconscious. And standing in front of him, talking to him, is a figure that is literally from your worst nightmare.
The story describes her in this chilling detail. A horrifying face, those same solid black eyes, skin that's sagging and loose, and this wild white hair. They found it. They found the source of all this terror. And they don't even think. They just turn and run for their lives.
Now it's a full-on chase. They scramble out of that house, but this thing is right on their heels. And the very lake they were trying to find to become famous, it's about to become their final stop.
As they're running for the door, Ayush takes one last look back and sees the old woman coming down the stairs. But she's not walking. She's crawling down, all twisted and unnatural, like an insect. That image just fuels their terror, and they burst out of the house and just run, blindly, not even looking where they're going, until the ground just disappears from under their feet.
They fell into the lake. The water is ice cold, and it feels like something is pulling them down. Ayush somehow manages to fight his way back to the surface, just gasping for air. But when he looks back for his friend, he sees Rohan get dragged under the water. And then, nothing. He's just gone. The shock is too much. Ayush collapses, and everything goes black.
The next morning is just tragic. But the real story, the real reason for what happened that night, it lies in an old local legend, a story of murder and a revenge that's never been finished.
Ayush wakes up back in his hotel room. He runs outside and he's met with a horrible scene. Flashing police lights everywhere. And under 2 white sheets are the bodies of his best friends, Rohan and Aman, pulled from the lake in the woods. The police, of course, can't explain what happened, so they just rule it a murder. But the local villagers, they know the real story, and their legend is the final, chilling piece of this puzzle. They say that a woman used to live in that old house, peacefully, but some villagers wanted her home, so they brutally murdered her and dumped her body in the lake. And now, her spirit haunts that forest, getting revenge on anyone who dares to trespass near her home or near the lake where she died.
And that's what we're left with, isn't it? These boys were just looking for a bit of fame, a good story to tell. But what they found was this awful cycle of revenge, born from a terrible crime. It really makes you wonder, behind every scary story, every ghost, is there just a sad human tragedy that's never been put to rest?